unfounded. With the latest in entertainment at 17 and 47 minutes past each hour, I'm Bree Wood on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, MBytes.com.
Time now for traffic and weather.
On the Bay Area's BIN 910.
Want to check this old grade this time around, looking at northbound 680, where we see traffic flowing at Mission Boulevard south. That's going to run you all the way up the Sonoma grade up to Calaveras Road. Beyond that point, no further delays on northbound 680. Looks good heading toward Walnut Creek. Eastbound Highway 24, that is in great shape heading out of Oakland. As a matter of fact, you won't see a slowdown until you get to Pleasant Hill Road, and that's just going to be a minor slowdown that'll run you out to the Walnut Creek interchange. Bay Bridge looks like the metering lights are off at the toll plaza, but we still see a little bit of a slowdown on westbound 80 starting at the Bay Bridge Tower. That is going to stick with you out to 101. Taking a look at your Bay Area weather, clear skies tonight, some patchy night morning fog along the coast. Lows dropping down into the mid-50s. Sunny and warm inland again tomorrow. With Bay Area traffic and weather, I'm Ricky Batiste for the Black Information Network.
4 years old, she looks back at her career feeling fulfilled and instilled with the confidence to walk into any role. And that's a fact. I'm Felicia on the Black Information Network.
I'm Doug Davis.
And I'm Esther Dillard on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Here are your top stories. Felony murder charges against those Hyatt Hotel staffers involved in the death of black man Devontae Mitchell. The black mayor of Savannah, Georgia, and the black governor of Maryland have been among those busy dealing with preparations for or the cleanup of Tropical Storm Debbie. A new poll reveals that black voters are boarding the Democratic train to the presidency more than when Biden was running for the office. Data from a new Reuters Ipsos poll shows that 70% of black voters are down for Harris compared to 59% from a July poll. Meantime, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's numbers are up. The same poll shows that 50% of white voters are in support of Trump, up 4 points from the same July poll. Kamala Harris could become the first black woman president and the first of Indian descent in U.S. history.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Black voters who may be asking, what has Harris's VP running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, done for African Americans? For starters, he signed a police reform bill following the death of George Floyd. Last year, he signed the Crown Act into law, which bans discrimination against black natural hairstyles. Governor Walz is in favor of women having reproductive rights.
Oh. Yeah. Ajá. No, pues no tengo ni tiempo. Stupid fucking tire. It's just a fucking tire. Damn. Oh, no. No. Pues que no. Pues story. What now? No. Pues lo que estoy haciendo. No, pero sé.
Learn how you can help by logging on to 30,000acres.org.
Our news all the time.
Black Information Network. The Bay Area's BIN 910.
Your money on the Black Information Network.
Vice President Kamala Harris visited a beloved black-owned restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. Harris is currently campaigning after she announced her interest in running to become the next president of the United States. If she succeeds, she'll make history as the first black woman and the first South Asian American to do so. Her first campaign stop was in Atlanta, Georgia on July 30th of 2024. According to PBS station WABE, this was her 15th visit to Georgia and her first as the presumptive Democratic nominee.
That's a stop sign. You're supposed to stop.
State, Harris said, in Georgia, according to ABC. You helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. While Harris made it her mission to energize Georgia voters, she also did the same for a local black business. 11 Alive mentioned she visited Pascal's restaurant in Atlanta. During her visit, she received a warm welcome from Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, who is black, Representative Nikema Williams, a Democrat from Georgia, who is also black, and Democratic U.S. Senators John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, a Democrat who is also African American. Founded by brothers James and Robert Pascal, the restaurant became famous for their fried chicken. Money news at 24 and 54 past each hour. I'm Natasha Williams, and your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Original Black reporting.
The Black Information Network. The Bay Area's BIN 910.
I'm Esther Dillard.
And I'm Doug Davis on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Now that VP Kamala Harris has officially picked her running mate, what do you think of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz? Some black residents like Sonda Allen shared her thoughts with NBC Washington.
I was hoping for something a little more tasty. I think Boulder would have been better, but I would also like to win.
Black Howard University professor Kenesha Grant believes the fact that Walz is relatively unknown may work in Harris's favor.
He brings to the ticket the kind of everyday working class things that the Democrats seek to shore up in their base.
Walz is a former military veteran, congressman, former high school football coach, and a hunter. These are all things that many believe will appeal to working class rural Americans.
Recently, a photo of former President Donald Trump surrounded by a group of modestly dressed beautiful black women was shared on Facebook at least 800 times in 3 days. The caption reads, "They are afraid of black women supporting Trump because when we do, we drop the Hood Rat Act. The left hates classy women." USA Today reports they found the author of the image, and Sharika Soul admits it's AI art, not a real photo.
As the Olympic Games wrap up, we want to remind you that Paris, France is a place of refuge for many black writers and artists. Entertainers like jazz musician Miles Davis and writer James Baldwin moved there from the United States. Julia Brown, a black tour guide with Walk the Spirit tours in Paris, France, told NBC News the reason was a need for freedom.
What these remarkable people found here in Paris was a sense of dignity, an opportunity to use their talents and show the genius that was already in them.
Entertainer Josephine Baker is the most famous black American to make Paris
He's
her home.
supposed to.
She is one of only 6 women enshrined in the Pantheon among the country's highest honors.
Finally, African-American
guy, he almost hit me.
another
He didn't
U.S.
want to
athlete
wait for
who
me
won
to go
gold
across
in
the
Paris.
intersection.
She blasted through the women's 200-meter final with a time of 21.83 seconds.
I'm Esther Dillard, along with Doug Davis, on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network. Now, your Healthy Minute.
The CDC is issuing new guidelines for RSV vaccines. The CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices has narrowed its recommendations for which older adults should be vaccinated against the respiratory virus. It now says only adults 75 and older and those 60 and older who are at high risk should get the shot. Up to 160,000 older adults in the U.S. get RSV each year, and about 10,000 people die of the virus. Elsewhere in health-related news, a chemical that is found in rocket fuel and fireworks has been found in multiple food products popular with babies and children. That's according to findings published by Consumer Reports. The test shows the chemical perchlorate in 2/3 of nearly 200 samples from grocery stores and fast food chains. Food and plastic containers had the highest levels. The chemical is linked to potential brain damage in infants and fetuses and thyroid disease in adults. That's your Healthy Minute. I'm Morgan Wood on the Black Information Network.
Stories you trust from people you trust.
Black Information Network. The Bay Area's BIN 910.
Geico makes car insurance easy as playing your sad playlist at the wrong time.
Getting dark, it's daylight, baby. I've never known such darkness. No one finds a tree.
Toby, it's a birthday party, man. Pass someone else off. With 24/7 claim support, it's easy to Geico.
Let me finish the song first. The starting. Yeah, so cool.
I'm Terry McCready on the Black Information Network. If you own a gun, be sure to lock it and store it. Keep guns out of the reach of children. Doing so could save a child's life. Gun safety starts at home. Elections impact policies on education, healthcare, and more. Be part of the decision-making process and vote for what matters to you. A message from your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
That's another bet you didn't know music fact on the
Oh
Black
wow, you got
Information
me up
Network.
wherever this was on the corner.
9:10
Nice.
a.m. KKSF,
Much
Oakland,
better.
the Black Information Network.
Listen at BINnews.com or tell your smart device to play the Black Information Network on iHeartRadio. I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Donald Trump says he'd rather be running against Vice President Kamala Harris than President Biden. At a press event from his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida, Trump criticized Harris's record on crime and other issues.
Kamala's record is horrible. She's a radical left person at a level that nobody's seen.
This was his first public appearance since Harris became the nominee and selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. New Jersey flags will fly at half-staff starting on Friday in honor of Justice James H. Coleman Jr., who passed away last week at 91. Acting Governor Way calls Coleman a lifelong trailblazer and says his life embodies the intertwined history of inequality and progress in our country. Coleman was born the son of a sharecropper in racially segregated Virginia and broke down racial barriers when he became the first black justice to serve on the state Supreme Court in 1994. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network. I'm Terry McCready.
And I'm Kevin Brown on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Kamala Harris and her new running mate are on the campaign trail in the battleground states of Wisconsin and Michigan. While speaking from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Harris delivering a series of attacks against her political rival, Donald Trump.
This campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. It's about two very different visions for our nation.
The Harris campaign then moved on to Detroit. Harris said Trump is responsible for the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Donald Trump handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court because he intended for them to overturn Roe v. Wade, and as he intended, they did.
Harris said she wants her message to reach all Americans. Meanwhile, Trump's running mate J.D. Vance mirrored Harris's schedule, holding several campaign events.
The family of an unarmed black woman who was fatally shot in their Illinois home by a sheriff's deputy last month is calling for reform. Sonia Massey's family is urging significant changes to the state's law in addressing issues related to police officer transfers. The proposed reforms would close loopholes, allowing officers with questionable records, including misconduct, to be rehired by other departments. Massey's father argues that a reform of the Illinois Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act could have saved his daughter's life.
A federal judge in Texas has dismissed racial discrimination claims while allowing claims of sex discrimination to proceed in a federal civil rights lawsuit. U.S. District Court Judge Jeffrey Vincent Brown said in his decision that the claims of racial discrimination in the lawsuit brought by Barbara Hill High School student Daryl George and his family have not shown a persistent, widespread practice of disparate race-based enforcement of the hair policy. As for claims of sex discrimination, Brown said while the school district gives reasons that show why they have a dress code, they provide no support for the finer question of the rationale for the dress code's distinction between male and female students.
It's called colorism, and doctors from many ethnic groups are now making a direct connection to poor health. The 2023 survey from health policy organization KFF found among black and Hispanic adults, those with self-described darker complexions reported more experiences with daily discrimination compared to those with lighter skin tones. Data shows people who report feeling subjected to discrimination can be at higher risk of increased alcohol and drug use, loneliness, and anxiety.
All right, well, the global secondhand clothing market is expected to double to $350 billion by 2027. But textile waste is still a big problem as much of the West
ships discarded materials to the global south. The market in Ghana sees nearly 8 million pounds of used clothing weekly, as many items clog the sewage systems and lead to increased pollution on beaches. A Chicago-based vintage store has launched a mending class series out of its showroom. The owners of the Goody Vault say the strategy behind mending with similarly weighted materials and threading patterns is the new integration of different colors and textures into garments. Upcyclers are returning to their roots to preserve the lifespan of clothing and keep garments out of landfills. I'm Terry McCready along with Kevin Brown on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Born in Baltimore on September 24th, 1894, Edward Franklin Frazier would graduate from Howard University and become acquainted with sociology while pursuing his master's at Clark University. Becoming an instructor of sociology at Morehouse College in the early 1920s, E. Franklin Frazier would earn his Ph.D. from the University of Chicago in 1932 and publish his first book titled The Negro Family in the United States. Returning to Howard University in 1943, Frazier became chair of the sociology department, co-founded the D.C. Sociological Society, and served as one of its first presidents. 5 years later, he became the first black person to serve as president of the American Sociological Association. Before passing in 1962, Frazier would publish the acclaimed and controversial book, Black Bourgeoisie, criticizing race relations in America. I'm Christy James on the Black Information Network.
Honest, credible, trusted.
The Black Information Network.
The Bay Area, BIN 910.
I'm Natasha Williams on your home for 24/7 News on San Francisco's BIN 910. San Francisco is using a new crime-fighting tool. Drones are helping officers make arrests. The police department has 6 of them, with more on the way. San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott, who is black, says the drones have already proven valuable in several car burglaries and catching a sexual assault suspect. He shared video of some of the cases in which the district attorney says is also key to filing charges and ultimately getting convictions. And speaking of crime, police in Oakland want their mayor to resign because of it. The Oakland Police Officers Association says the city has become an international embarrassment under Mayor Xing Tao. In a press conference, the Oakland Police Officers Association flatly accused Tao of making Oakland a more dangerous place and are urging her to resign.
Resign now will help us get a leader into office immediately in November election. It will also save the city millions of dollars.
They say Xing Tao has let their city become a laughingstock of major cities around the country and a very dangerous place to live.
For 2 years, almost 2 years, we've been waiting, and we see this ship is not steering in the right direction. The leadership in the city continue to fail again and again, and the citizens out in the street are suffering.
Hugh Nguyen is the president of the Oakland Police Officers Association. Oakland Mayor Xing Tao is under fire for what many say is increased crime. An FBI search of her home and an effort to recall her from office. She addressed these issues during an interview with NBC Bay Area. The OPOA is calling for Tao to resign by an August 8th deadline. In a lengthy letter to police, she enlisted several criticisms of the mayor, including the city missing a state deadline to potentially qualify for millions in crime-fighting funding. They also noted the FBI search of her home, saying it creates a lack of credibility. The group added that under Tao and her policies, crime is totally out of control. They also highlighted this past weekend where a sideshow left 5 people being shot and in a separate shooting that left 3 more people wounded. The OPOA also blamed the mayor and the Oakland City Council majority for recently passing a budget that cuts the police force from 712 sworn officers to 678 officers, saying that they simply don't have enough resources.
We're working backwards if we think that we can function as 600 police officers or 678 police officers in this city. The demand from our community is greater today than ever.
The letter demanding Tao's resignation comes after a unanimous vote by the OPOA's 4-person executive board. However, the union said there is overwhelming support of the letter by rank-and-file officers. And in other news, California has the highest birthing costs in the U.S. That's according to a recent study from Wallet Hub, ranking the best places in the nation to have a baby. Out of all the states in Washington, D.C., California fell at number 30. The Golden State ranked high for hospital costs for conventional and C-section deliveries and ranked 27th for family friendliness and 23rd for baby friendliness. I'm Natasha Williams, and you're home for 24/7 news on San Francisco's BIN 910.
Want to make a difference? African American patients only have a 25% chance of finding a bone marrow match. Make a difference and join the National Bone Marrow Registry at bethematch.org.
Get the Black news that matters in 30 minutes on the Black Information Network.
The Bay Area's BIN 910.
This hour of news is brought to you by Merck, a proud national partner of the Black Information Network.
You may remember seeing something about the death of Danye Jones.
Well, a Ferguson, Missouri activist found her son hanging from a tree, and police are ruling it a suicide, but the mother believes it was a lynching. He was not suicidal.
I'm Ray Novoselsky. Starting only 6 weeks after Danye was found hanged by a bed sheet, my colleague John Duffy and I spent 2.5 years working with Danye's mother, Melissa, with many members of his family, his friends, and even members of the Ferguson activist community, to follow the trail and find out what exactly happened to him.
Not only did we find apparent holes in the investigation into Danye's death, but also what appears to be racism in local law enforcement. From Double Asterisk, Now This, and iHeartRadio comes an unforgettable new investigative podcast series, After the Uprising. Subscribe today on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts.
The creative director of the opening ceremony has denied the theme was meant to evoke the Last Supper. The people.
Sharpton said it was Trump's way of signaling to his base that he could go to a black conference and do everything except call them the N-word. The Black Information Network. 3 prominent progressive politicians of color are facing a class action lawsuit.
News that's making a difference
Every day.
the Bay Area's BIN 910 and on the
I'm supposed to make a
iHeartRadio
U-turn
app.
right there.
March 18, 1969, black nurses used their lunch break to protest discrimination at Charleston's Medical College Hospital. The 12 workers are accused of leaving their patients and are fired. The next day, over 60 African-American hospital employees walk off the job and start a strike against the hospital. On April 25th, Governor McNair calls on 1,000 state troopers and National Guardsmen, orders a 9 p.m. curfew, and declares a state of emergency. Coretta Scott King addresses the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church on April 30th.
In our nation, the black working woman is perhaps the most discriminated against.
The governor responds with armored personnel carriers and soldiers brandishing bayonets. The black community boycotts Charleston businesses. Some report revenue reductions of as much as 50%. The hospital is eventually charged with 37 instances of civil rights violations by the federal government, who threatened to cut off $12 million in funding. And on June 27, 1969, hospital president McCord kneels. I'm Wesson Tishon for the Black Information Network.
Our news, available anywhere. Tell your smart device to play the Black Information Network station on iHeartRadio.
The opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed in this commentary are those of the author and do not necessarily represent those of BIN and its founding partners and employees. Now it's time to bring the funk with Roland S. Martin.
Republicans are truly beside themselves over what to do with Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. In the first 24 hours since Walz was picked by Harris, the campaign has raised $36 million. The other thing is how the attacks on the right are falling short. J.D. Vance, Trump's VP pick, is complaining to the media, why aren't y'all asking her more questions? Why aren't y'all demanding she do interviews? Yo, literally, that's how he sounds. Check this out. They've been attacking Walz, saying that,